Welcome to Reframing Mindset for Success. With me today is Tonia. How are you today, Tonia?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Great stuff, great stuff. And what have you been up to this week?
I am preparing to speak to some women in technology and science tomorrow. So that is pretty
Wow.
much what I've been up to lately.
Yeah, a lot of speaking is that been I mean, obviously I know you specialize in communications, so does it tend to be training or does it tend to be speaking? Is it a bit of a mix?
It is a bit of a mix because I do my own training program. I have a communicate confidence course for women, and I meet with them. They're just women founders and leaders in different spaces that want to either become public speakers or just want to be more prepared to speak on their job. And so I still do that training on my own. Uh, it's a 12-week program, and then I'm currently in the midst of my first one for this year right now. And then as time goes on, more speaking opportunities arise. So
Excellent, excellent. Sounds like things are going well. Well, as you know, the podcast, I always start with your story in however many words that you want to tell it. So at this point, it's a little bit of an over to you.
okay. So I guess my story is really based in my passion and love for communication. Since I was a little girl, I've always enjoyed talking. I wasn't a very talkative child, but my mom would always say that, she would be surprised by the things that I would say. And I remember being like 3 years old and having to talk in front of the audience, like whether it was, I think it was church or something. And I just loved hearing my voice on the microphone. I love talking to people. Like it was always, I just remember the first time I heard it, it was just like, yeah, I like this. And so I've never been the one that's been really shy or afraid to speak in public or to speak up for people. Like since I was also young, always if I felt like my teacher was doing something that was unjust or wrong. So basically, we were supposed to go out and play, and one person did something wrong, and she knew who did it wrong. And I spoke up for the class and was like, "Hey, why do we all have to suffer? You know who did it? Let's go out and and so I kind of got in a little trouble, not a lot for that, but so I'm still getting the try. I still, encourage people to have a voice. And I thought I
Yeah.
was going to go into law school actually, because I've always been kind of passionate about like standing up for people and people having a voice and speaking up for people. But in college, I took communication as a minor
Yeah.
as and it related to my political science because obviously if you want to be a lawyer you have to be a good speaker, but when I went into the court it just was not how I envisioned it on television. Like passionate and I fell asleep like every time, like it was like
Oh, wow, really?
so I said, well, you know what, maybe I need to focus on the communication part because I love that part. I actually got an internship in DC to work with the United States Attorney General and help with
All right.
speeches and
Yeah.
do great. And I love that. And so I ended up going to graduate school for communication and teaching communication for over 20 years at different universities and now training others and companies in communication. So
Wow. And that's an amazing when you think about the direction you thought you were going in, and then you've just
mhm,
gone in a completely different direction.
yes. And so I still think that it relates to what I was doing as far
Yeah.
as giving people voice, but in a different way. I'm empowering others to have their own voice now instead of like, being the one that's trying to champion justice for all. But I think that's even more. It's like, the saying, you can give a man a fish or you can teach them to fish. And now I'm just teaching them to have a voice for themselves. So,
And is that then because I mean obviously communication to me it's an absolute art for those people who specialize
yes.
in it. It's something that we all use each and every day. But is
Mhm.
that I love that phrase around helping people find their voice. But I can't imagine that people come to you and say, "Can you help me find my voice?" So when people come to you, is it normally, I don't know, I want to improve my presentation skills? Is it I want to be
Mhm.
I want to communicate better? How would they
Mhm.
come to you and say, "This is what I need help with"?
So usually, no, they don't come to me and say, help me find my voice. What they're usually saying is every time I'm called on to speak, I get nervous, I get anxious,
Yeah,
I feel that I don't have a story worth sharing, or I feel inadequate to speak up in certain situations, or I feel that I know that I need to promote my business. I know that I need to speak, but they just lack the motivation, or they're, well, we're about to, I'm jumping ahead into mindset, but they don't see themselves as a good speaker.
yeah,
And there's all kinds of studies that talk about people who have a fear of speaking, and it's one of the top fears that people have, like even more than death. That
yeah. It's
people,
it's amazing, isn't it? Yeah.
yes, it is.
Right, and no, I'm totally with you, and that was what I was probably expecting. And I
Mm,
think it's a nice way that you phrase that you really trying to help people find the voice, because it is that inner voice, but it's overcoming those inner fears that they've got. And it's amazing, quite right. So over my years of working in my career, how many people are actually scared of making presentations, or
mm.
have to do a speech in public. It is one of the big and all-time fears. So as you've just mentioned, mindset, as you know, the podcast is about mindset. So, when you think about your mindset, why is mindset important to you?
My own personal mindset, I don't think that I would be in business for myself if I didn't constantly work on my mindset. I mean, any business owner, entrepreneur knows, as you do, it's a scary thing. And you have to be able to see yourself succeeding, but also surround yourself. That's how we met, in a training environment. I'm always trying to put myself around people
Yeah,
who are challenging my mindset to think higher, to grow, more than I and saw myself growing or becoming. And so it's a continual growth. I mean, as an educator, obviously I believe in having a growth mindset and continually learning.
yeah,
But it definitely, the people you surround yourself with, I think, have a big deal with it. Every morning, I try to just have some time to, quiet myself and to, read, whether it's inspirational or read something that is going to kind of put me on track for the day. And whether that is spiritual word, inspirational word, making sure that you start the day, with the right mindset, I think is a really big thing.
yeah,
Reading books and doing things that are going to constantly put you in, because, if you focus on the negativity in the media, there's a lot of things that can put you in a negative mindset. So I try to be
yeah.
intentional about journaling, affirmations, and doing things that'll keep me in a abundant growth mindset.
Lovely. And I guess that leads into the next question, because I was going to ask you to describe your mindset and are they the words that you'd use: growth mindset, a mindset of abundance?
Hmm. Because if we're constantly thinking, like when I was talking about my clients who think that I'm not enough, that I don't have what it takes to, we have a lack, that have a lack mindset, or have what in psychology the term, like maybe imposter syndrome, where they just feel like they're not enough or not good enough, then you're not gonna, I can, teach them all the tools they need to have to be a great speaker. But if they don't believe it, if they don't have the confidence to see that, yes, this is possible for me, then it makes it really, it's
Yeah,
gonna be really difficult for them to put it into practice. And so for me, I definitely feel like everything's a lesson, that everything happens for a reason. Even the difficult seasons as you talk about your story. I think sometimes even the most difficult times in your life, it's funny, I'm writing about this in my current book I'm working on right now, is that I think that some people are afraid to share those aspects or to really go into those. But even that, even your lowest points are what helps you to create a stronger that, hey, you know what, you made it through that, so you can make it through this. It's like even everything that you've overcome has made you stronger and wiser, and you grow from it.
Yeah, absolutely, totally makes sense. And the book you're writing at this moment in time, is it, has it got a title yet? Or is it something that's still to come?
It does. It does. I haven't released it to the public, but I will give you the first sneak peek. So, yes, so it is called Win with Words, and it's
Excellent.
the power of your words, how you change your words, you can change your world. And just
Fantastic.
really looking at how you speak to yourself, that's mindset, how you speak to others, and really just being intentional about how you use your words.
Yeah, so it's really powerful. Just listening to that and the way that you explained it, because I'm a massive believer in the way that you speak to yourself, and it is what you mentioned before around the way you visualize yourself, isn't it? What you think's possible. So many people talk about imposter syndrome at this moment in time, and
Mhm.
it's like we do ourselves a disservice before we start a lot of the time. So,
Mhm.
that play on mindset, that play on words, that sounds fantastic. So when can we expect that? Is it, are
Yes,
close to the end of the writing the book? We're
I
about to,
am.
yeah,
I I am close to the end. I'm in the last chapters. Obviously, it has to be edited and it's tested and go through a process. But I definitely believe this year, by I would say summer fall of 2024, I look to yeah have it in the market.
excellent. And is this what number book is this for you now?
This will be my third book. This
Third,
will be
right? Okay, okay. So
but my
the number one and number two books are called.
So my first book was called Changing Lanes, A New Adult's Guide to Understanding Your Lane in Life. And so, I was a professor for many years working with students, really of all ages, but
Yeah,
that are in just the process of understanding their purpose and direction and where they want to go. And I didn't plan on writing that book. It just sort of was a God-given thing. Like I was lost. I lived in a place in the US and Georgia. It was very confusing. And I remember being lost and just on a dark road and like with no direction and
yeah,
no sense of where I was. And just thinking to myself, how horrible it must feel to be this way in life, to feel like you're just on a dark road. You don't see which way to go. You don't see any light. You don't see anyone, to assist in just how do you navigate that and how do you find your way
yeah,
so that was kind of the metaphor. So I just wrote a little piece about that. I wrote a little essay about that and I kept getting more and more and more. And I was like, oh, okay, guys, I guess you want me to write a book. So that was my first book
yeah,
on changing lanes. And then my second book, both are inspirational, is for women
yeah,
and it deals with relationships, but more your own personal relationship. And as you grow personally and spiritually, how that improves your relationships. And so that book is called The One, A Woman's Search for Eternal Love. And so that one was my second one. But the book I'm working on now is the first book that I've actually done in my area, of I guess expertise as far as
yeah.
communication is concerned. And so I'm really, really excited about it.
Do you know, I'm really excited about it too now. I can't wait to read it. Sounds like it's going to be great. I'm
Well, I might have you as a tester.
I'd love to help anytime. And on the basis of then, I know you're putting a lot of work into your writing at the moment. If you think about, the understanding of your mindset being growth mindset, abundant mindset, and understanding the importance of it. And we've talked about the likes of visualization there as well, and your self-talk. If you were to, I guess, describe a technique that you use to develop your mindset, maybe on a daily basis, what would it be?
So, what I mentioned earlier, as far as making sure I try, and I'm not saying that, I'm perfect, but every morning I try to start my day with the right mindset. And how does that do? You don't just wake up and just be like, I'm in a great mindset. But I try to start my day with reading, with possibly writing. That's usually actually when my best writing is, like first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
And trying to start my day reading some inspirational quotes, reading whether it's Bible or whatever it's to, just trying to
Yeah.
center yourself and like look at your day and look at everything you have that day and just start from a place of peace and expectation for what the day holds. Now, throughout the day, things are
Yeah.
going to happen. Things are going to happen. But I believe that you're just better prepared to face it, address it if you kind of start on the right footing with the foundation. Like, people say whether it's nutrition, you start or you have a good breakfast or you have a good, yes, things are going to happen, but at least you have something, to start from. And I think that is also like feeding your mind, and making
Yeah.
sure you start with a good foundation. But then throughout that, I think that it's also continually having people in your life that are going to push you farther, having mentors and having people that are going to challenge your current mindset. Because sometimes we don't realize we're stagnant in certain areas.
Yeah.
And I have one mentor, he's also a business consultant for many years and worked for various like Fortune 500 companies, but he was like, every like 2 to 3 months, you need to be saying like, how can I go to the next level? Like 2.0, 3.0, I think 5.0. Like, how can I take my business, myself to the next level and
Yeah.
grow from where I am now?
It sounds like, I think having a mentor, it's so important, isn't it? Or even if you're a coach, having a coach and being coached, even though you're a coach
Definitely.
yourself, yeah, so much you can learn. And then, that blends in really nicely then to, my next question, which is who's helped you over the years, or what's
Oh my
helped you
goodness.
frame your
Mm-hmm.
mindset?
So I feel like, well, not just because of the pandemic, but from 2020 to today, I feel like I am at a completely different place
Yeah.
because of the coaches and mentors that have come into my life during this time. And so in 2019 is when that's when we met,
Yeah.
uh, started, started thinking like, okay, I enjoy being an educator. I've done it for 20 years, but I know that there's more that I'm called to. And I, I didn't come from a background working in corporate and doing different things. And so that was like a totally kind of new world to me. I knew my information and I knew myself as an educator or trainer, but just going into business and just doing things I had done as I was teaching, I had done some contracts and did some training on the side and spoke and did something, but it was more of a hobby than really a full-time thing. And so
Yeah.
I started being more serious. And so that's when I started seeking out coaches. And every coach that I've had has definitely, I've been grateful. So you have to be careful these days, especially after 2020. It's like everybody's, calling themselves a coach or trying to, starting stuff online. And it's like this influx of like all these different programs, online programs, which and so
Yeah.
at the same time, but there are some really good legitimate coaches that have, and that's the one thing is they need to have the receipts and they need to be doing things that you haven't done, and they're walking in what they're speaking. They don't just teach it, but they're walking in the success of what they're teaching. And
Yeah.
so I've been really fortunate to have really great coaches. When we met, we that really pushed me. I wasn't marketing myself at all. I wasn't really doing anything on social media, just
Yeah.
little things you do for like just for your friends or different things. But I started doing that. Then in 2020, I had a business coach, and I became a part of an accelerator program for women in business seeking to do corporate contracts. And that was like an MBA in
Yeah.
business. It was like I was able to surround myself with women who were doing 6, 7 figure contracts and just see the possibilities of where I can be. And actually, from that program, receive my first 5 figure deals just working with women in the program. And
Yeah.
so it it definitely changed my life. In that program, I also I left academia, quit my job, which is kind of crazy, but I'm grateful. I don't think that if I hadn't had the coach, not that either of the coaches told me to quit my job, because I would never do that as a coach because I can't pay your bills. So I'm not saying that, but I do. But it did like push me to say, you know what?
Yeah.
There's only, and which is not very much. I don't know about in the UK. I hope, other places I think have a better regard for teachers and professors than than we do in the States. But it's just the income is just very little, and there's only so like there's just only so much you can make, and it doesn't matter how many degrees you have, how much education you have.
Yeah.
That's it. And so I was like, I need to take control of my financial future, my destiny, the legacy I want to leave for my family. And so yeah, and so then I went full time, and I was able to replace my income as a professor, but that wasn't that hard. But even go beyond that, and see that there's just more that you could actually do what you love and be paid for it.
Paid for it.
That,
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think that anyone goes into education really seeking to be wealthy or rich. You do it because you love to do it. And I still do, but just in a different framework. And I see it as a global thing. Now I'm able to teach people online all over the world, whereas, just being in one classroom or at one university, I feel like my reach, has expanded. And so it's been an exciting time, challenging, yes, for sure. But I'm so grateful for the mentors and coaches that I've had that have pushed me beyond my comfort zone and just really just taught me so much about business, about just my mindset, where I had limits. I look
Yeah.
back at I look back at things I said when coaches asked me questions. I know they must have been like, this poor girl. Like me, like my goals and what I sought to make. And it was just, I just look back and I was like, but it was a step-by-step process. And it just, you may not start out really, really confident in, especially, when you're talking about pricing and really positioning yourself for success, because there might be a little lack of confidence there because you're in a new area. But definitely over time, I have I have expanded to really see the value that I offer, and to not back down from that. But
Yeah.
definitely, it's been a growth process for sure.
It's amazing, isn't it? Because I think, quite rightly, you first go into business, and I think what I see is a lot of people who are experts, but what they're not experts in is they're not experts in business. And
Mm.
there's that piece of also the when you see some people as well going into business, is that they don't actually understand what they're worth. And that's got to all be worked out. You start your
Mhm.
business, as you say, you've obviously surrounded yourself with the right people, which massively helps, and you've had the coaches and the mentors as well. But I think when you realize your true value, that's when, and it's the way you see yourself, isn't it? Everything that you talked about earlier, around communication and self-talk, it's all about that, isn't it?
It is. And I think that it's important that I know my husband would be like, you are way, when I was teaching, way too educated to be making what you're making. Like, and you just see, like you have a mindset. And I think, and I still do have a mindset, but I think I had more of a mindset of just service. And like, as a teacher, you do that and you sacrifice a lot actually. And so, and I'm not saying that, and I commend and definitely like we wouldn't have anything if it wasn't for teachers and educators. So definitely I am grateful for my time as an educator, but also seeing that there are more possibilities and there's different ways that you can educate and seeing the value of 20 years of experience in teaching in this one area that relates to so many different aspects of business,
Yeah.
whether it's intercultural communication and my experiences living abroad in Europe and spending time in London and different places and like going and traveling, not just my academic knowledge, but just experiences helps me bring that all together and teach and train in business in a way that's unique to who I am. And so I think that's what people have to realize, that it's not about being like somebody else, that you have unique experiences and talents and areas that you can share that nobody else can share because they haven't had your same exact experiences. And so I think that's key to finding your niche and finding what makes you unique and special in your own way and really branding that within your business.
Definitely. It's all about that authenticity, isn't it? And that kind of
Mhm.
authentic path that you can go on when you realize your own unique gifts. Um,
Definitely.
do you on the basis of what you've been explaining, obviously you've had some travels and the careers as a teacher, professor. Are there any funny stories that you could share with the listeners there?
So I will, since we are in different countries right now, I think that some of my most interesting, sometimes humorous stories come from culture
Yeah,
and come from being around various cultures and going to different places. And I think you don't realize the assumptions you make and the differences, but there's lots of similarities as well. But that with language and with communication, even though you're in England, I'm in the US, we think that like English is English, but no, no, no. It's like it's different. There's different things that are English. They're both English words, but how they're used in different countries is different. And so I know that, so I have students from all around the world and in different situations and just living in different places. But words that we use as far as, like we say chips in English, say crisp, and we say, as far as one of my students is, this is a little funny. So one of my students asked, what we say as an eraser in English is a rubber, and we have a very different interpretation of what that means in the U.S. as a form of, I guess, prevention of
yeah.
pregnancy. And so things like that, and just how we use words. But when you think about it, when people are doing business and marketing,
Yeah,
if it affects, you can't just put out messages and put out marketing or advertising and not realize that there are differences in how people interpret and the meanings of those words. And so it's yeah, it's really eye-opening and but can definitely bring some powerful lessons as far as even as you relate it to business and being able to relate to your target audience and speak in a way that's going to reach them where they are.
definitely. And it's amazing, isn't it? How just some of those, real simple words can have quite different meanings. And as you're saying,
Mhm.
just from the US to the UK, no matter across, different countries, different cultures as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, on the basis of, what I've really been hearing it is, you're talking about the way that we really communicate with ourselves is really key to, and obviously our effectiveness as communicators in general life as well. But if you were to give sort of the last piece of advice based on what you've been talking about for the listener, what would it be?
I would say to start with yourself, like you said, how you speak to yourself really is important because it's going to, you can be the one that's preventing you from going to the next level, and really changing how you speak to yourself is important. And then I would say to listen more than you speak, to really be someone that is always seeking to learn and grow from others, and to truly understand where they are. And then when you speak, to realize the power of your words and to use your words wisely.
Excellent, excellent. And it is, isn't it? It's funny, isn't it? Because I always think about the way we can so easily dramatize a situation on the basis of the way that we talk to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And
It's
it's interesting. I use a little tool to ground myself and focus, which is purely just rubbing my fingertips together. And
mm-hmm.
when I rub the fingertips together, the essence behind it is just to ground me in the here and now. You know,
Mm-hmm.
if I feel like my mind's racing away, or I'm doing a bit of overthinking, or take myself to a place that it shouldn't be, and what that does, it grounds me back in the here and now, and then I can start to talk to myself the way I should be talking.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can catch yourself at times, and I do think that we talk about criticism, and sometimes the criticism we give ourselves, that self-criticism,
Mm-hmm.
we wouldn't actually speak to other people like that.
Exactly.
So it's so
Nice.
critical to our success, isn't it?
It is like, be nice, speak nicely to yourself. Speak
Yeah, yeah.
like you would never say that to someone else. So why are you saying that to yourself? And then when you're speaking to others, like I said, it still is important to start with yourself, because you could be bringing all of your own insecurities and assumptions and things into that. So it's important to listen, because and really start with you, because it affects obviously how you communicate to others, and you don't want to project all that negativity back onto others. And so yeah, so really it starts with you, and being able to think about and think through your emotions, what you're feeling, as far as for me, sometimes it's like, okay, what is how is this is going to affect how is this going to affect my life a year from now, 5 years from now? Does it really even matter? Like, is it really even worth my energy to get all riled up or upset about something that is going to have no effect on my life, or we worry about things that haven't even happened? And so
Yep.
it's just being mindful, and yeah, staying present, because we
Yeah.
can get 5 years, and not to say you shouldn't have a plan, and not to say you shouldn't have a vision for the future, but sometimes we go negatively, like what if this and what if that, and we start going down a negative spiral of fear in the future, and that is definitely not productive. So we have to think about, okay, where we are right in the here and now, what can we do now to help us to be where we want to be in the future. And I believe how we speak to ourselves now is going to be relevant, and it's going to affect where we are in the future.
Excellent. That's absolutely great advice. Really enjoyed it. I'm so on the basis of, for you next, obviously you've got the book coming,
Mhm.
and from a business perspective, is it to grow your business now? Is it, well, what's next
Mhm.
for you?
Yes, so definitely I am looking to grow my business corporately as I do more trainings. I've done my Communicate with Confidence course on my own for individual leaders and business owners, but I want to be able to implement that within companies who have a leadership development program, who have a professional development program, through different means, and through different maybe groups and organizations within the company, to be able to provide that assistance to help them to communicate confidently as leaders. They might be going into new management positions. Interculturally, I share a lot of experiences from travels and being in diverse environments that definitely relates to business, and being able to work through internal communication situations. We didn't even really, address that, but conflict and navigating difficult conversations and how to have those conversations as a leader, or those above you, below you, that have to report to you, or different in different situations. And so communication is really a major part of success in business. And so, yeah, I'm looking definitely to do more training as far as in even internationally, corporately,
Yeah.
in doing that work.
Brilliant. Well, it has been an absolute pleasure and excellent having you on the podcast today. I'm really looking forward to the new book. Which sounds
Thank
really
you.
exciting. So, yeah, that sounds great. Sounds like it's going to be a great read. So thank you very much for today.
Thank you for having me, Paul. I've really enjoyed, reconnecting and talking with you again. And definitely we'll have to stay in touch. Maybe do this again.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you.
All righty. Take care.